Welcome to our January episode of Poetry for Progress, the podcast where we bring you the voices that matter, the poets who are shaping the world through their words. I'm your host, Mia Mattern, and today is another special Meet the Poet episode, where we will dive deep into the thoughts and experiences of a poet who has left an indelible mark on our community. Our featured poet today is none other than Mia Grace Davis, a remarkable individual whose poetry has touched the hearts of many. She was previously recognized as one of our Poets of the Week, and today we have the privilege of getting to know her on a more personal level. Mia Grace Davis is a writer, musician, and editor from San Diego, California. She's a 2023 National Young Arts finalist in writing, specifically spoken word, as well as a U.S. Presidential Scholar in the Arts semifinalist. Her latest writing is featured or forthcoming in Gone Law, the Tusculum Review, and Ice Lolly Review, as well as others. As an alumna of the Iowa Young Writers Studio and a former mentee in the Adroit Journal Summer Mentorship Program, she's currently pursuing an undergraduate degree at Stanford University. To wrap up this introduction, we're going to share with you a performance of Mia's poem titled OCD and Me, which she performed for Young Arts.
OCD and me, a contrapuntal. OCD. Draw near, darling, listen to my dormant lies and skeletons framed by weak bones of truth. I am elusive, pouring through your tarnished being. Allow me to find sanctuary in your destructive palms. Don't read into suffering. I assure you, such is life. Used as a descriptor, yet I am a deceptor. Or am I reality? Me. Obsessions, flames licking frail innocence, now cremated guilt and its ashes. Trembling fingers imprisoned with perpetual anxiety, intertwining hands of delicacy. I'm sorry. My apologies for apologizing, my 16th consecutive apology. I cannot help but shatter the universe, an earthquake swallowing certainty. I would do anything to break this cycle. OCD and me. Draw near, darling. Listen to my obsessions. Dormant lies and flames licking from skeletons framed by weak bones, a frail innocence, now cremated truth. I am elusive, guilt and its ashes pouring through trembling fingers, your tarnished being imprisoned. Allow me, with perpetual anxiety, to find sanctuary in your destructive palms of delicacy. I'm sorry, don't read into my apologies for suffering. I assure you, such apologizing is life, my 16th consecutive apology. Used as a descriptor, I cannot help but shatter the universe. Yet I am a deceptor, an earthquake swallowing certainty. Or am I reality? I would do anything to break this cycle.
I would just like to say, Mia, your performance was truly moving. Your vulnerability and honesty were incredibly powerful. It felt both personal and universal in a way. Your performance truly left an impact on me, and your voice is such a valuable addition to the artistic community. I can just feel how much you love the art through the screen, which leads me to my first question. When did you first discover your love for poetry?
I would say in
in my freshman year of high school was when I discovered my love for poetry. Before then, I had really only focused on novel writing, and poetry had always seemed like something that was kind of big and scary and this huge concept that was really hard to pin down. And I didn't really think that it was something I personally could get involved in. However, once I got to my freshman year of high school, it was kind of like new environment, new people, new life in a way. That's kind of dramatic, but it gave me a space to try different things, and I just naturally found myself gravitating toward poetry. I remember having this idea for a piece, and it was still fiction, but I felt that line breaks and stanzas and enjambments and all these different poetic structures and tools would really serve the piece better than a novelistic structure would. So that was like my first kind of engagement with the poetic world, and I think that I've fallen in love with it ever since.
I love that you said that your focus was novel writing, and yet poetry seemed more intimidating. That's so interesting, and it just shows how different everyone's view of, writing and different kinds of writing is. But I think that it's so amazing that what made you really fall in love with it was just what the structure allowed. That's never something that I've thought about before in that way. Falling in love with just the structure of it and how that allows you to tell a story, fictional or not. That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing. So going back to that wonderful piece of work we just got to hear you perform, I'd like to ask, what was the writing process like when you first started writing OCD and Me?
When I first started writing OCD and Me, it was very soon after I got my diagnosis. I don't remember the exact timeline, but I think I got diagnosed in around June of my junior year, going into my junior year. And this was around the time when I was really getting into poetry. Before that, I had been involved with it, like I was talking about my freshman year, but summer of my junior year was when I went hard. I was looking up master classes and researching every single form there was, and in this research I found a YouTube video about how to write a contrapuntal. And right after I had been diagnosed, I was like, wow, this would be a really great way for me to kind of grapple with this diagnosis. So I came up with the 2 columns, OCD and Me, and I decided that I wanted to talk about my perspective with the disorder, convey my side, which is me, and then I wanted OCD to have its own voice and to convey its perspective, which is obviously OCD, and then OCD and Me is our conversation together directed to the audience. So it's kind of like us joining together, me and OCD, like this force to convey a bigger message. So I just started trying to figure out exactly how would OCD be conveyed, personified, which was kind of complicated. And then how do I feel in response to my OCD? How do I act? And at the time, it was trying to figure out, how do I act with my OCD? I know that I have these certain behaviors, and I know that this isn't quote-unquote normal, but how exactly does that correspond to my OCD? So I was really coming to understand it myself, and I think that having that process written on paper can help other people try to understand the disorder a little bit better as well.
Absolutely. I think that's something that was so striking about hearing the performance. Just seeing the different perspectives and then seeing the way that you align with your OCD and you identify with it, but also the differences in the two perspectives. I think that's a super smart way to put it together. It's really beautiful to listen to as well, just because it's so emotional and vulnerable. I think that's best when we get to listen to that performed, just because it is your perspective and it is something that you've gone through, and I think there's a lot of power in sharing that. So you participated in the Iowa Young Writers Studio, which is a creative writing program for high school students at the University of Iowa. And I just wanted to ask how your experience there helped you grow not only as a writer, but as a person.
I think Iowa's really special in the fact that you meet so many amazing people. And there are definitely other spaces like that, but Iowa's is really prevalent. I still keep in touch with so many of the people that I met there, and we still send each other our writing, which has been really, really special and helpful. I ask them for advice, they ask me for advice. It's kind of like a mutual little understanding of we've always got each other's backs. One of my friends at Iowa was the one who kind of validated a poem that I definitely was a little bit hesitant about, and now it's going to be published in Gonlon, which is one of my dream publications. It might be out by now, so if it is, you should go check it out. But I think just having those people was really influential in my journey, both as a writer and person. I feel a lot more secure in my identity as a writer, and I think it came at a time when it was right before I went to college, so I was about to transition into this kind of like murky, unbeknownst surroundings. Like I didn't know what was going on, and it was very grounding and allowed me to just kind of explore my craft before diving into something new. And I think that really helped ground me as a person and a writer. And I feel a lot more fulfilled because of the opportunity.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think as a writer, it can be so easy to become sort of isolated in our work, or, not really understand how it's going to be perceived by a larger whole. So in a lot of ways, a community, people, like you said, to validate you and just say like, this is really great, and now it's being published. That's amazing. Absolutely going to go check that out. But yeah, I think that's such a good insight. Just a community in any sense of people who have a similar goal to you and whose goal is to support you and to support other writers in general. I think that's great. I think to a certain extent, everyone needs that if they're trying to be creative in any sense. So yeah, thank you for sharing. Additionally, to kind of add on to that, would you recommend that program specifically to other aspiring poets or writers?
Absolutely recommend the Iowa Young Writers Studio for sure, 1,000%. Please apply. You never know what will happen. If you get rejected, then you can try again next year. Like, it was such a gratifying experience, and I don't think I would be where I am as a writer without it. Through the program, I really came to understand my temperament as a writer, how I work best, and I produced some of the work I am most proud of. I can confidently say that because of the Iowa Young Writers Studio. Other programs I recommend are the Sewanee Young Writers Conference, Young Arts, Kenyon, Adroit. Oh my gosh, Adroit. All of these are amazing, amazing programs that I would completely back up and say that at least try. Just like apply. You never know what will happen. I didn't do Kenyon, but I had the incredible opportunity to participate in the rest of them, which I'm so grateful for. And it was just some of the best experiences, if not the best experiences of my life. So completely support all of those programs, and yeah, just try, just do it.
Yeah, that's great advice for pretty much anything. Just try. You never know what's going to happen. That's awesome. And it's great to hear that all of those programs had such a positive impact on you and such an immense impact on you. It just goes to show how important such programs are. And lastly, though I hate to end our conversation, since we've talked so much about your performance, and we got to hear that incredible performance at the beginning of this episode, I would love to know how you deal with stage fright, if you've experienced any. And do you have any tips or tricks regarding the public spoken word?
Okay, so how do I deal with stage fright? I personally think that I didn't really experience stage fright as much as some other people. I kind of was invigorated by the stage in a way. I have been doing theater ever since I was like very little. I've been singing on stages since I was very, very, very little. And it was something that always enraptured me and just made me like super excited. However, as I grew older, I started to get more and more nervous going on stage. And I would say that accumulated actually at Young Arts. I'll be real, right before the performance, I started bursting into tears, like full on sobbing and behind stage, because this was actually my first time performing spoken word in front of an audience, and that was terrifying because I was, in this like situation where it's like, oh yeah, like you won this, now do it. And that was probably definitely the biggest experience I've had with stage fright. So all of my friends were super supportive, which even now I get like emotional about it. It was like really, really, really special. Something I still look back on very fondly. And I think that having people to kind of help you through stage fright and kind of just tell you like, hey, guess what? You've got this. Like, you know what you're doing. You're here for a reason. Go and give it your all. I think that's really helpful. But if you don't have that kind of support, especially in the moment of stage fright, just giving yourself that kind of reassurance. And hydrate, just relax, try to not think about it. Obviously, that's really difficult, especially with someone who has OCD. But yeah, I don't know. I think for me, once I'm on stage, kind of the fear goes away. So honestly, I'll say that I don't think I'm the most qualified for this question, but talk to people, talk to yourself, and just know that you've got it.
Awesome advice again. Although I cannot believe that was your first time ever performing spoken word in front of an audience. I mean, it was incredible. It's amazing. That's unbelievable. Just adds even more awe to that initial feeling. It's truly incredible. Wonderful job. I commend you once again. It has been so great getting to speak with you and have you answer some of our questions. Thank you to our listeners once again. You can find more of Mia's information and how you can support her in the description below. Come back next month for another Poet of the Week interview. And once again, thank you, Mia, for joining us on this episode. And a big thank you to the Poetry for Progress team.